آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم
Very, very, very important. It says values are caught rather than taught. Yeah? What does that mean? That means that our children will learn more from what we do than what we say. Yeah? How we behave, how we interact with our wives, how we interact with their mothers, how we interact with each other, how we interact with other people. They will observe how we behave and they will follow that behavior.
If you're grateful, Allah's promised to give you more. And if you're ungrateful, Allah promised to punish. That's it. Economics is actually simple. We have the guidance with us, but the world doesn't want to accept it.
Rely upon Allah. Trust Allah. What we do, many of us, illa man rahim Allah, when we come a situation, when we come to such a situation, we're reaching out to everyone and everything else before we think, wait a second, I could make dua as well.
وكن حلس درسك وافرح به تكن قائدا في غد للأمم وبادر شبابك من قبل أن يقطع عزمك سيف الهرم ودع ما استطعت فضول اختلاط وأكل ونوم وقول يذم يا طالب العلم قم لا تنم فإن الزمان انقضى وانصرم فكن ما حييت ضنينا به فظنك بالوقت عين الكرم.
That's what we should be doing, glorifying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not glorifying people, whether it be the living or the dead individuals. Make your tongue moist. Make your tongue moist, be dhikr Allah.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله رب الأرض والسماء سميع الدعاء يبدأ بالنعم والآلاء ويكشف السوء والبلاء. أحمد ربي وأشكره وأتوب إليه واستغفره وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ذو العزة والكبرياء وأشهد أن نبينا وسيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله المبعوث بالشريعة التامة. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على عبدك ورسولك محمد وعلى آله وصحبه السابقين إلى كل عمل مبرور وسعي مشكور. أما بعد. There's a very famous, well not famous, but there's a very important word or phrase I heard from some Shaykh in the past, and I memorized it because it had a nice little ring to it, a nice little rhyme to it. And it was لَقَدْ رَبَطَ الْمُسَبَّبَاتِ بِأَسْبَابِهَا, as in Allah has connected the causes with all its effects. And this was very important for me because it teaches us a very important principle about the dunya that Allah has created for us. Every action, every event, everything that happens in this dunya, there was things that led to it, that brought us there. This is very important to understand as we navigate this world and we accept and we navigate through Allah's qadr. Inna kulla shay'in khalaqnahu biqadr. As Allah mentioned that Allah has created everything with exact, precise measure. So everything, from who we marry, what we do, our righteousness, our sin, all of that, Allah has decreed it before we were even born. So the actions and events are there. However, sometimes we wonder to ourselves, we want to try and make sure that our actions are the best they can possibly be, that they are according to the Quran and the Sunnah, so that hopefully, inshallah, we'll get to Jannah. But there's a very important component of this formula, and that is the intention. So, the normal hadith we all know, in the ma'al biniyat, all actions have intention. وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى, and everyone will receive that which they intended. Two very important principles. Again, laying down the bedrock, the foundation for our actions in this dunya. That every action we do has behind it a sabab, a reason. Why did we do this? There's a reason for it. But the second part of that, the second principle, لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ, li, often in Islam, when you see the word li, it refers to the positive, that which you get on your hisab as a tick, you could say. So everything you would get as a good thing, as a hasanah, be what he intended. Meaning that of all the actions you intend to do, the only good deeds you will receive is that which you intended to be ibadah. And that's why the rest of the hadith explains it. Whoever's hijrah is for Allah and His Messenger, then his hijrah is for Allah and His Messenger. If his intentions was exactly for that, if his intentions were exactly for that, then he will get exactly what he intended. Straightforward. But if his intentions was for the dunya, just some element of the dunya, yusibuha, or imra'atin yankihuha, or maybe he heard of a lady, she accepted his proposal, and that's the reason for his hijrah. Then he will get what he intended. And the last part of that is very important. He will get what he intended. It never said he will get any sin. It never rebuked the person for that. It just said, you will get that which you intended. So essentially, going back to the very first part of the hadith, every action has an intention. Sometimes those intentions are for Allah and His Messenger. And that's what we get. We get reward because we did it for Allah and His Messenger. It was pure, it was sincere, it was mukhlis. But sometimes you may do things for other than that. So this brings me to the second part, highlighting and magnifying the power of intention. It's a long hadith, so I'm going to paraphrase it because of time constraints. But Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions about a man whom Allah gave him wealth and gave him intellect, aql, knowledge. And he used his wealth fi sabilillah. So Allah gave him money. And what is money? Opportunity. Ability, qudra. With money, you have the capacity and the ability to execute your intentions. That's essentially what money is, just the ability to execute what you want to do. And because of his knowledge, what knowledge? Of the hereafter, of righteousness, and the avenues of ibadah and worship through the wealth that Allah has given him. Because of this knowledge, it wasn't just knowledge, but it was that knowledge. Beneficial knowledge, we call it. Ilm al-nafi'. Because of that beneficial knowledge, he used his wealth, fi sabilillah. Recognizing that when he dies, all that money he has will just go to his inheritors and that's it. The opportunity was lost. Listen carefully, everyone. He recognized with his knowledge that once he dies, the money he had acquired will now go on to somebody else. It would be someone else's opportunity for righteousness. And he would have lost the opportunity for righteousness. So he did what he could in his lifetime. But then there'll be a man whom Allah gave him knowledge, but Allah didn't decree for him rizq. Allah didn't give him the ability to execute what he wanted to do. And the Messenger of Allah said, and these two are the same. These two are the same. How and why? Because they had the intentions, they had the internal leanings that brings about righteousness. Even though one was not able to execute, he was still the same in terms of righteousness, in terms of good. But then there'll be one who Allah gave him wealth, but didn't give him knowledge. As in, maybe he had knowledge to acquire the wealth, but it wasn't beneficial knowledge that encouraged him towards righteousness. So he did all sorts of fasad. Spent his money on ladies and sin, clubbing and the rest of it. Whatever you do with your money to commit sin. That's what he did. And there'll be a man whom Allah did not give him knowledge and did not give him wealth, ability. And then the hadith concludes by saying, and these two are the same. Why? Because he would say this person had no wealth and had no knowledge. He would say, if only I had the wealth of so and so, I would do X and sin. So we see here that the irony is, although he didn't commit sin, given the opportunity he would have. That's the power of intention. That's the power of intention. Given the opportunity he would have. And likewise, the one who Allah gave him knowledge but didn't give him wealth, he would say, if only I had the wealth of so and so, I would do this, I'll build Masjid, I would feed the poor, I would house the refugees, he would do all these good things. Why didn't he do it though? No ability. So here we recognize and we see for ourselves in this hadith the power, the sheer power of intention. And intention is a powerful thing. Intention is a powerful thing. It determines, as we just discovered, the direction of your actions. And this is interesting, especially when you study the books of fiqh, especially when you talk about the topic of intention itself. The ulama stipulate and mention and bring to light need to tamyiz, the intention of differentiating. Because sometimes actions will be the same thing. For example, washing your body. You can wash your body because you're dirty. You can wash your body because it's ghusl, yawm al-jum'ah. The same exact action. But what made one good and the other one, whatever, was intention. And this is what I think we need to bring to the forefront in our minds, psychologically speaking, in our practice, in what we do. We need to bring to the forefront our intentions. And we need to make taftish. We need to examine ourselves. Listen carefully, everyone. This part is probably the most important part. The examination. If you really examine your actions, even when it's righteous, going to Jum'ah, going to Umrah, going to Hajj, giving your zakah, all these things, we sometimes take for granted that because they are acts of worship, of course it's sincere. Obviously. Why else am I doing it? That's a good question. Why else could you be possibly doing it? Are you going to X masjid because your friends are there and that's the reason why you're going? If they weren't there, maybe you just wouldn't go to the masjid at all? Are you doing Umrah? Are you doing Hajj even? So you can gain the laqab, Haji. Gain that sharaf, that status. It might not appeal to some people, but to some cultures that's very important. Being called Haji, that's a status thing, where you've achieved something that others haven't achieved. Sadaqah, a big one. Giving wealth. I've seen so many times in places where masajid and Islamic institutes, they'll have on a wall, so-and-so donated. And I always just cringe. And I say to myself, why would you even advertise that? Why would you make that public in the first place? Even if your intention was mukhlis, shaitan is still next to you. Shaitan is still next to you. And specifically when it comes to sadaqah, you can even retroactively nullify your good deeds. Allah mentioned, do not nullify your good deeds bil manni wal adha. Your sadaqat. Don't nullify your sadaqat by harming people with your speech and using it as leverage. You know, I gave you that money the other day and, sort me out. You just nullified what was potentially a good deed and now just be used as leverage. So we really need to navigate this world of intention gently. Scrutinize our actions always. Especially in the world of social media, the world of social profiles, where many people do things. Just the other day I saw someone doing umrah and they had their camera in their face while they're doing tawaf. But why would you do that? Does that bring you closer to Allah? Are your deeds of hasanat increasing by publicizing that? Now it's possible, don't get me wrong. Islam encourages you to do good deeds publicly, to encourage others to do so. But that's a dangerous valley. And we can all recognize that, especially in social media. When you publicize something, doing acts of obedience, openly and publicly, it's a dangerous valley. I mean, we really need to navigate ourselves and be very careful in how we approach this. بارك الله لي ولكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعني وإياكم بما فيه من الآيات والذكر الحكيم أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم لسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه كان غفارا. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلي وسلم وأسلم على نبينا الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. So, in my first year in studying abroad, I came across a hadith. It was in a qira'ah class. It was just, you read it, you do some exercise and whatnot. And it was a hadith which was so powerful that for years, every time I thought of the hadith, it choked me up. And generally speaking, my approach is that whenever people have invited me to do a khutbah, I make sure to mention this hadith. Because I think it should be the forefront of all our actions. إِنَّ أَوَّلَ النَّاسِ يُقْضَى عَلَيْهِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ رَجُلٌ اسْتُشْهِدَ. The first of people who will be brought to account on a day of judgment will be a man who was killed, a shaheed. فَأُتِيَ بِهِ فَعَرَّفَهُ نِعْمَهُ فَعَرَفَهَا. He will be brought forward and be made known to him Allah's blessings, Allah's favors upon him in this life. And he would recognize them. Yeah, this is true, this is what happened. قَالَ فَمَا عَمِلْتَ فِيهَا. And it be said to him, what did you do with these blessings that Allah gave to you? And he will say, قَاتَلْتُ فِيكَ حَتَّى اسْتُشْهِدْتُ. I fought jihad, fi sabilillah, up until I was killed shaheed. So Allah showed him his whole life, all that he gave. And he was asked, what did you do with all these blessings? And he would say, Ya Allah, jihad, that was me. Why? For your sake, Ya Allah. قَالَ كَذَبْتَ. It was said to him, you lied. Now can you imagine that on the day of judgment? All your life, you came to the masjid early, Saf al-Awwal, you did all your salah, as soon as you had money to do hajj, you did the hajj. As soon as you had anything, all these good deeds you did. Can you imagine being told in Yawm al-Qiyamah, you lied? But what did he lie? Because he did fight. And he was killed, shaheed. So what was the lie? Feek. Just 3 letters. Feeka. For your sake. That was the lie. You didn't do it for Allah's sake. ما فعلت إلا ليقال جريء. You only did so people will say that you're brave. That was it. You wanted people to know you're brave, you're strong, you can wield the sword. This person, mashallah, mujahid. وقد قيل. And that was said. People said, you were, or you are, or were brave. فأمر به فصحب على وجهه حتى ألقي في النار. And he'll be ordered to be dragged on his face until he's thrown to hellfire. ورجل تعلم العلم وعلمه وقرأ القرآن. And there'll be another man. He sought knowledge. He went out. He went out to seek knowledge. And on top of that, once he acquired that knowledge, he taught knowledge. وقرأ القرآن. And he read the Quran. ما شاء الله طالب علم شيخ. فأتي به فعرفه نعمه فعرفها. He'll be brought forward. His deeds will be made known to him. And he will recognize them. قال فما عملت فيها. What would you do with these blessings? قال, he will say, تعلمت العلم وعلمته وقرأت فيك القرآن. I sought knowledge and I taught this knowledge and I read the Quran for your sake. قال كذبت. It be said to him, you lied. You're a liar. ما تعلمت العلم إلا ليقال عالم. The only reason you went to seek knowledge is that people say to you, say that he's an alim. That's the only reason why you did it, was for sharaf, was for the honor of being an alim. وما قرأت القرآن إلا يقال هو قارئ. وقد قيل. And you not only read the Quran, so people will say, MashaAllah, he's the qari, he's the reciter of so and so. Let's travel to his masjid. Let's hear his taraweeh. Let's buy his CDs. Let's sign up to his this and that and the other. Shaykh. That was the only reason why he did it. فأمر به فصحب على وجهه حتى ألقي في النار. And be ordered to be dragged on his face until he's thrown to hellfire. And what hit me the most about this is that no one would ever have known this. And it seems apparently they even deceived themselves. They even deceived themselves. They stood in front of Allah knowing who Allah is, telling Allah a lie, thinking that it was true. وَرَجُلٌ وَسَّعَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ مِنْ أَصْنَافِ الْمَالِ كُلِّهِ. And a man who Allah opened up to him all avenues of wealth. فَأُتِيَ بِهِ فَعَرَّفَهُ نِعْمَهُ فَعَرَفَهَا. And he will be brought forward and his blessings will be known to him and he recognized them. And he had definitely lots of ni'am. Like the previous two had lots of ni'am. What's this ni'am? Ability. They were given the ability for these actions and they did it. And they did it. But there was something missing. قال فما عملت فيها. And we said to him, what did you do with all these blessings? Pay attention. قال ما تركت من سبيل تحب أن ينفق فيها إلا أنفقت فيها لك. I didn't leave any avenue that I knew you loved money to be spent in that thing, except that I spent in that thing. What I like about that last part is it kind of gives the hint of what was wrong. What went wrong? There was no avenue that I knew you loved, wealth was spent, except that I did that action. So they missed the formula. They only got half of the message. They recognize that there's actions, amil salihat. They saw those righteous deeds. But they missed the intention part of the formula. قال كذبت. You'll be said to him, you have lied. ما فعلت إلا ليقال جواد. You only did so that it be said he is generous. فأمر به فصحب على وجهه حتى أوقف في النار. And he ordered to be thrown, to be dragged on his face until he is thrown into hellfire. This hadith, ya ikhwan, should be a hadith you teach your children. Should be a hadith you memorize. Should be a hadith you remember every time you do a righteous deed. Have I got both sides of the equation? Is it balanced? Have I got the action as well as the intention? Or is there some corruption involved here? And it's very, very easy to deceive yourself. Listen carefully, everyone. It is very easy to deceive yourself. And even worse, have ujub, have surprise and wonder. Wow, I've memorized this matan. I memorized this ayah of the Quran, or these ayat of the Quran. I've done tafsir. I spent wealth here, there, and everywhere. I built masajid. I sponsored markets. I've. So it's no wonder that the Salaf al-Salih, the Sahaba and the Tabi'een, and those of those generations used to be worried and frightened for themselves, for their own actions. Is any of their actions even accepted? If they were worried about their actions, although they read the Quran and they know the Sunnah that testify to their virtue over everyone else, if they themselves were worried about their own actions, why are we so complacent? It's so easy for us to go out there and selfie ourselves next to the Kaaba and selfie ourselves next to some person who's poor and give them money and advertise this and advertise that. And bring up their good deeds, their righteousness to people. Oh, I did this and I did that. And worse than that, think that you are somehow something because of these actions. Like I said, actions probably aren't even that important. That's why I started off this khutbah about mentioning Allah's qadr. Because the actions, the events of this world aren't as important as you think. They have been decreed long before you even thought of the actions even occurring. What makes the events in your favor is something that no one can see but you. Something inside your hearts that no one is aware of but you. And if we don't focus on that, ya ikhwan, then everything else could be null and void. And I ask Allah to protect us from being one of these three. Even if it's just one action, may Allah protect us from that. Because there's so many things we've done in our lives, events we've done, and we look back and we think, mashallah, I've done X, Y, Z. Alhamdulillah, I think, inshallah, I've done something. That's, in my view, that's a deception. In my view, Shaitan has deceived you, and he's deceiving you. The moment you think you've achieved, then at some level you might think, okay, I don't have to do anymore. I don't have to continue working. I finished the job, or most of the job, or enough of the job. If we change our mindset and have su'u dhan of our past, assume it's all batil, and we have to start from now. Well, how would you behave? How would you behave? If someone whispered in your ear, just whispered, none of your deeds have been accepted. If that whisper came into your ear and you believed it, what would you do? How would you behave from now on? As opposed to, Oh yeah, I've done lots. MashaAllah, I've achieved and achieved. What? Compare the two actions. As a believer, we have hope in Allah's mercy, but we have fear of His punishment. And we should also have fear of our own selves and our own soul and our own intentions. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما وقد قال صلى الله عليه وسلم من صلى عليه صلاة واحدة صلى الله عليه بها 10 فصلوا وسلموا على سيد الأولين والآخرين وإمام المرسلين اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم ارض عن الصحابة أجمعين وعن الخلفاء الراشدين الأئمة المهديين أبي بكر وعمر وعثمان وعلي وعن سائر الصحابة والآل والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين اللهم ارض عنا معهم بمنك وكرمك ورحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وأذل الكفر والكافرين ودمر أعداء الدين يا رب العالمين اللهم أذلنا الشرك والمشركين يا رب العالمين اللهم أحسن عاقبتنا في الأمور كلها وأجرنا من خزي الدنيا وعذاب الآخرة اللهم أعذنا من شرور أنفسنا من سيئات أعمالنا عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون فاذكروا الله العظيم الجليل يذكركم واشكروه على نعمه يزدكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون أقم الصلاة